I'm just hearing that Alison Redford is delayed by a couple of minutes. So right now, I'm joined by James Moore. Now, the reason James Moore is here is because, remember yesterday on this program, the former Liberal leader, Michael Ignatieff, stunned former colleagues and politicians with an interview he gave to the BBC Scotland. In this interview, he says Quebec will eventually be independent. Let me show you a clip of what he said.
And it's a kind of way station. You stop there for a while, but I think the logic eventually is independence, full independence.
For Quebec as for Scotland?
I think eventually that's where it goes.
Now, Michael Ignatieff says he's backtracking on his comments today, sent us a statement saying the remarks were taken out of context. I'll show you that statement in a minute. Federalist parties in Quebec and Ottawa are trying to downplay his remarks, but is the damage already done? Has the former Liberal leader added fuel to the separatist flames? And what's the political fallout? Joining me now, the Heritage Minister, James Moore. Minister Moore, good to see you.
Pleasure.
What was your reaction when you saw the video of Michael Ignatieff and what he said to the BBC about Quebec sovereignty or Quebec independence?
Two things. One, relief in the good judgment of the Canadian public that they didn't make Michael Ignatieff Prime Minister last year. And second was, okay, that's Michael Ignatieff's view. Now, where's Bob Rae? Where was Bob Rae when Justin Trudeau said that Quebec sovereignty is a legitimate option that he might actually endorse if Liberals don't get to govern sometime? And where's Bob Rae in condemnation of Michael Ignatieff and him saying that Quebec sovereignty is the ultimate denouement of Quebec's existence in North America?
But he's no
it's
longer
really
the
irresponsible.
Leader. He's no longer the leader. He's an academic now. He has entitlement to his views. Do you necessarily graft the Liberal Party? Do they have to carry the weight of these views?
If they don't disassociate themselves from them, yeah, and they haven't yet disassociated themselves from these comments. And Michael Ignatieff was the person to whom all of them pledged their allegiance that this is the right person to be the Prime Minister of this country. It's these kind of flippant and irresponsible comments which has made Michael Ignatieff ill-suited to be Prime Minister of this country, and Bob Rae's lack of leadership in opposition to his views and his silence in Justin Trudeau's views when Justin Trudeau came out and said that Quebec sovereignty is a legitimate option that he might endorse if Liberals don't get to govern this country. Both of those things are two failures of, not a direct quote, but clearly an inference that was where they were going.
Let me read you what Michael Ignatieff has said, and we've shown it to our audience here. It says, remarks of mine taken out of context in an interview with BBC's Scotland have caused distress to Federalist friends across the country. I've always said that I stand for national unity. He basically says they're out of context. Your thoughts?
No, his comments were clearly, I mean, it wasn't a hypothetical question. It was a declaration. It wasn't a comment in a context. It was a declaration of his judgment that Quebec's ultimate destiny is to be separate from Canada. And I think that that's a pretty shocking thing to say from a guy who less than a year ago was a serious contender to be the Prime Minister of Canada.
He said that the model, he said that the model that Canada has shown is that you can have post-referendum a kind of devolution of power, kind of a conciliation without outright independence.
Well, look, we have a very decentralized system as it is right now, but we have national institutions that bind Canadians together. In Canada, the Canadian system of governance is one that allows a considerable flex and recognition of the differences between and amongst Canadians and between and amongst different regions of the country. But the idea that the ultimate separation is the ultimate destiny of Canada, regardless of the federal government, I think is a real defeatist approach to the future of this country. The Prime Minister of this country, national political parties should be declaring with every opportunity the benefits of national unity. The responsibility of the Prime Minister and any leader is to go out and persistently make the argument that a united Canada is in the best interest of all Canadians, all Quebecers, regardless of the difficulties, strains, and frustrations that we have from time to time, one to another.
He says, I oppose the separation of Canada and Quebec. I oppose the separation of Scotland and the United Kingdom. I mean, he goes on to say that he opposes this. But was it his moment in this interview when he said, eventually, this separation, independence is the final destination here? Was that the moment?
Yeah, but that's his failure right there. It's not eventually. It's not a predetermined outcome. I think this country has weathered 2 world wars. We've weathered a Great Depression. We've weathered economic downturns. We weathered quiet revolution. We weathered 2 referendums on national unity. We weathered the Charlottetown referendum. We've had great divisions in this country that we've weathered incredible stresses through. This country is incredibly resilient and strong and will continue to be so. And as I say, it's the obligation of Bob Rae, the current leader of the Liberal Party, to call out Michael Ignatieff and say that he's wrong. Not to give him a day to try to clarify or misdirect and spin that his comments were taken out of context. He made a declaration that the ultimate destiny of Quebec in North America is to be its own independent country. It was a declaration, not a spin or an analysis of things. That's how every journalist in this country has reported accurately, and for him to try and spin it after the fact is disingenuous.
What do you think of his thesis that everything changed post-referendum? His thesis is that we've essentially devolved, and Quebec de facto runs most of its policies independently, and the two Anglophones and Francophones don't have much to say to each other. And this is his thesis, that everything changes after a referendum. What's your view?
Well, things change certainly in the course of history. Canada has a long process of evolution as a country, but that wasn't quite his thesis. That's not obviously what's getting all the attention right now. But certainly the country changes. We move forward. We adapt. We recalibrate. We've recognized Quebec as a nation. We've devolved powers to Quebec in a lot of ways.
Quebec.
Pardon me?
You recognize Quebecois as a nation, not Quebec as a nation.
Correct. We've recognized Quebec as a nation within a united Canada, but certainly we have bilateral agreements with provinces. But there are also 2.5 million French-speaking Canadians outside of the province of Quebec, with whom we have an obligation to ensure that they have their rights recognized, and we can all go forward in a united way. So, Canada, with every hitch and turn and stress and success and frustration and failure and challenge that the country has faced, we always come out of it a little bit different. We evolve as a country and we move forward. But
have we evolved into two solitudes? That was his part of, before he kind of said eventually the ultimate destination is independence. He sort of said we're de facto in two solitudes now.
He's wrong. I think he's wrong. I think certainly there are barriers and differences between different regions of this country, including Quebec and other regions of the country. There are these barriers, but it's the obligation of political parties to say that we can certainly continue to survive and thrive, and that all Canadians are better off in a united country.
All right, that's James Moore. By the way, we asked Michael Ignatieff to come on to comment or respond to James Moore. He was not available. We also asked Bob Rae to come on to respond. You heard what Minister Moore said about that. Bob Rae was not available.